Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. Where's my wand? You get fairy dust. I get fairy dust. Amelie gets fairy dust. And welcome to another video about this amazing book, Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving. I am starting chapter 2. Healing from complex PTSD is above all complex. So chapter 2 talks about levels of recovering, and here is where our childhood trauma lives. Here's where it lives within us. It lives in our thoughts. I'm a piece of shit. I'm not good enough. I'll never be enough. I'll never get that. I'm not worthy of love. It lives in our thoughts. It lives in our emotions. It lives when, we get one of those, what Pete Walker calls an emotional flashback. When something happens in the world, I always use my example of abandonment. So, this is a silly example, and I don't do this, but this is the illustration. Is that okay? So my dad abandoned me. I'm going to have an abandonment emotional flashback. Like, it just lives in me no matter what, no matter how healed I am from that. And I'm very, very healed. But if something smacks of abandonment, like if I get ghosted, the example I was going to use is so dumb, like being stood up at Starbucks or something. Even though I know that is silly to feel abandoned, I know it's it's not real abandonment. It's just somebody didn't show up at Starbucks, and that it's probably a scheduling error or something like that. But let's say for some reason it triggers me and it sends me into those feelings of abandonment. If a friend moves, one of my buttons or triggers is they always leave, being abandoned. And so if somebody somebody moved, it would be like they always leave, or whatever. And so that's that's one of the ways it lives in our emotions. We're just trying to scoot along and live our life, and then all of a sudden it's like all these ghosts from the past trauma just come out and say, hey, I'm just going to take over for a little bit. No problem. I'm just going to lose my shit. Another way it lives in our emotions is, so those thoughts that we were having, I'm not worthy of love. I'm not, I'll never be okay, whatever. We're then going to have feelings about that. We're going to feel icky about ourselves. It's going to make us feel sad. It's going to make us feel depressed. It's going to make us feel lonely. It's going to make us feel lost. And so those negative thoughts, which is why we do not have the luxury of a negative thought, impact how we fucking feel about ourselves, about our day, about what we're doing, about anything. And then I think another way it infects our emotions is, when we're not really taking care of ourselves, or for instance, if we get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, HALT, HALT, an addict, we're always taught, don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, or you might fucking relapse. You got to watch that shit. And so if I'm hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, and then someone's late, or what, someone said they were going to give me something that they didn't give me, I'm like, I can't believe that. And so instead of like, oh, or oh, I wonder what came up, instead of like, I can't believe it, and blah, just have the emotion. And I'm not doing it on purpose, and I'm not, it's taking over. One of the things that Jung said about complexes, which are, equivalent to what Pete Walker calls emotional flashbacks, is we don't have complexes. Like, I don't have an inferiority complex. I don't have a bad mother complex. Those complexes have me. And they're just waiting in the fucking wings. Waiting in the fucking wings till something happens in my world when that complex or emotional flashback can take over my emotions. It lives in our spiritual life. A lot of us, me included, felt abandoned by God as a child. Like, God saw other people but didn't see me. And my spirituality has evolved throughout my recovery. It's still evolving. And, if you're agnostic or an atheist, you can think of this as, your life's, not so much an agnostic, you would still believe that there is something out there, you don't know what, but so that will evolve for you. But if you're an atheist, you can think of it as like your life's philosophies. And, if something has happened to you if something has happened to you in your past, you might have some life philosophies that are based in childhood trauma and you don't even know that it's a childhood trauma thing and not your belief. Recently I made a discovery of, a philosophy of my life, which is I'm a very proud introvert, and fuck anybody who thinks introversion is bad or lame or wrong, unless you're an introvert, because you didn't get that way on purpose. That's childhood trauma, by the way. This world is not made for introverted children. It's changing, but it was not made for introverted children. And so we have some PTSD from that. What was I going to say? Right. Okay. So I was going to give you an example of my philosophy changing. So I believed that I was a proud hermit. Like, I'm a loner. I love it. I'm a homebody. I love being at home. I enjoy my life. Yes, I see people. Yes, I have connections. Yes, I have friends. But I was really proud of being a hermit. And then I realized that the hermit part, the introversion part and the solitude part is very healthy, but the hermit part, that's PTSD. That's isolating. And so I have had to evolve my philosophies around that. And then that has made me have to do, it's hard to do in COVID because we're all kind of hermits now, but I have to do a little bit of growing in that area and actually have to make some changes in my life. And so that's what I mean. But before, I'm just like, yeah, fuck you. I'm a hermit. Like, I don't give a fuck. And so, I mean, that was my true belief. And I was on my way to taking that to my grave. It's like, hell yes, she died a hermit. Like, me and my husband joke, like, the only person that's going to be at our funeral is, like the real estate agents that keep sending us Christmas cards. Oh, he's an introvert too, by the way. Okay, here we go. So those are examples of it affects us physically. I just did a TikTok about when you're dissociative, like you're kind of checked out in your life a little bit, and we can do it by accident. Like, it doesn't even need to be a stressful situation. But if I'm like in my head or in another world or daydreaming or whatever, I will bump into something and hurt myself, and I'll get a bruise, and then I have no recollection of hurting myself. This is a big bruise. I have zero recollection. And freeze mode is a trauma response. Freezing is a trauma response, and dissociating is mixed up in that as well. And so that affects us physically, but I also have chronic migraines. Like, I truly believe those are a result of childhood trauma. Like, I do everything, I go to fucking neurologist, but still, like, so I'm suspect when I have physical ailments, and I do think of these things as symbols, like symbolic. I think of getting sick symbolically. That's not what Pete Walker says. That's me, but he probably would agree. But it's not unusual for people who have childhood trauma to have chronic illness. So that's another way. Again, if this doesn't resonate with you or fit with you, just skip it. Just forget about it. And you can, there are other examples of that. Oops. Another way it could affect us physically is if our parents had strict rules about how our bodies should look, spoken or unspoken rules. And then of course, it's relational. It's how we relate to people. You know, like when I first met my husband, and he was the nicest person that has ever crossed my path to me. No one has ever treated me nicer than him. And I was pushing his ass away. I pushed his ass away for a really long time. Like, you know, because he's going to leave, obviously, so I might as well push him away ahead of time. You know, being jealous, being afraid to date, or afraid to find a partner, having a lot of partners. You know, all these things are on a continuum. You know, we could say if somebody didn't want to ever have any relationships with anybody as childhood trauma, and somebody that like was, you know, promiscuous, or I don't even know if that's a useful term anymore, but who had a lot of like society would call that, or that's also still childhood trauma. The person who has none and the person who has a gazillion are on the same continuum. There's no judgment. This person isn't pure and this person isn't bad. You know, they're both the same, and it's both childhood trauma. Again, if you are asexual, that is healthy, that's normal, that's your preference. If you have lots of sex with lots of different partners all the time, that's also healthy and also, you know, normal, whatever. If you don't have any childhood trauma, again, it doesn't work the other way around. These are just examples of how it might manifest into somebody's life. But it doesn't mean if somebody's there, it's definitely childhood trauma. I do not believe that. There are all different kinds of ways to have sexual health. So I just wanted to make sure that I was clear. I'm speaking about people who don't have love relationships and they want to. And I'm talking about people who, you know, have to have a lot of sex with a lot of different people and they don't want to. That's who I'm talking about. If you want this and you want this, it's fine. Again, you know, I bow down to Dan Savage, and so I'm, you know, there's never, you know, people who judge about that and try to make meanings from those things. You know, it's people like to get on their high horse and shame people for how they are. So, great talk, good talk. I hope this is helpful. Again, take what I need and leave the rest. Take what you need and leave the rest. If it doesn't resonate with you, toss it away. But this is why complex PTSD is so hard to heal. Some of this stuff is hard to find. You know, it's hard to like, that's from that, you know, and so therapy, for me, it's helpful because I need to kind of express these things. The name of my counseling practice is expressive counseling. So I need to express these things in that room with that person and help me sort them out. And it's like, that's not childhood trauma. That's just this, or this, I wonder if, And so it's just a matter of trying to figure something out. And again, just for the record, you do not have to, this doesn't mean you're being mean to your parents. You can do your complex PTSD work if these things resonate with you. And you can just say for your life, like, some shit went down and this is how I ended up. If this shit resonates, you know, you're probably done looking like this. do everything, like heal this shit, heal all of it, and just see if things are better or not. My hunch it will be. But I hope that was helpful. I love you. Bye.